right after 9/11 happened. They shut down the airlines and nobody can fly. And it was a creepy time for everyone. And right when they opened the airlines back up, I was on the first flight from LA to Boston, which was, again, a creepy time in which I did a little bit of business in Boston. And then I drove right over to New Haven, Connecticut to meet my friend Frankie. He was a producer and a director. And we had plans to produce his first film he ever made, which everything was kind of on hold for a while because of 9/11. So once we got back there, I remembered right away that New Haven, Connecticut often came up in Warren novels because it was close to where they live. And I got to talking with Frankie about Ed and Lorraine, and he had a million stories, and he was talking about, her museum and all this stuff. And, this was a good, 5, 6 years before I had met Lorraine face to face. So I was, somewhat fascinated. And he started talking about Dudleytown was close by. And if you don't know the history of Dudleytown, it's on most people's top 5 list of being just, one of the most terrifying places in America that people want to go to. And it has this long history of cannibalism. And just people supposedly go crazy when they go there. Dogs go crazy. Cars won't work. Lights won't work. So I say, hey, when we're done filming today, let's go to Dudleytown. And Frankie right away says, we can't because the owners don't let anybody on the property and they prosecute. And he says, besides, I have a friend that went there and she went crazy. She literally snuck in, went crazy, and to this day is in a halfway house. And I'm just like, whatever. And he's like, no, I'm dead serious. Now, at this time, Justin is kind of overhearing these conversations because he's out there with me producing this as well. There's also my friend Mike Callahan, which his name will come up here in a little bit, Frankie, and then 2 of his producer friends named Chris and Neil, which, again, you'll hear these names shortly. So I say to Frankie, well, if we can't go to Dudleytown, where else can we go? Isn't the White Lady around here? Now, I'm referring to the White Lady of Easton Cemetery, Union Cemetery. It's the famous White Lady that Ed Warren filmed on Super 16 black and white film, considered by many to be one of the greatest paranormal captures ever on film. And Frankie says, well, yeah, Union Cemetery is close by. I know how to get there. So I'm like stoked. I'm like, yes, this is awesome. We're going to go hunt for the White Lady tonight. Let's do it. So we couldn't, wrap filming fast enough for me that day. The whole evening I'm just telling people I'm jacked. I'm so ready. Like, let's do this. And everyone's pumped up. Everyone's pumped up. And it started out that 3 of us were going to go. But by the time filming had wrapped, there were 7 of us that were going to go. So we had to have 2 cars now. So filming wraps, we all decide we're going to have to drive 2 cars. But before we do, we all get together, in which my friend Frankie says, just, take this seriously because this is real. The White Lady is definitely real. I know friends who have seen her. It's like the real deal. And I'm like, well, cool. I'm ready. Let's do this, Now, keep in mind, when it comes to me personally, whenever I hear big legends, although I love the legend, my expectations are very low, just because if something, was so easy to prove or see, like it wouldn't be special, right? What makes it special is that, Ed filmed it after spending like 17 days sleeping in the cemetery, and he finally captured her. Like, those things make it cool. So I'm thinking the whole time, what are the chances that we're just going to drive out there and run into the White Lady? The fear factor of it all is why I'm excited to go. It's just going to creep everybody out. It's a historic place. So let's do this. So we hop into our cars and we're going to drive to Monroe. That's what we're looking for. Monroe, Connecticut. That's where the exit is. Now in my car, it's me, Frankie, and Justin. And in the other car, it's my friend Mike, this kid Neil, this kid Chris, and another guy I don't really remember. He was a really quiet kid. He was a PA. To be honest, he's not overtly relevant for this story, but he was there. So we're in 2 vehicles. And I'm told the cemetery is only a half an hour away from where we're at. And, we're getting stoked. And We're driving there, and there's like an old Warren book. I think it was the Demonologist was in the car, and I'm reading different stuff, and we're just yapping away about it a million miles an hour on the way there, and everyone's really getting excited, and the other car is following us, and we keep talking, and we keep talking, and the conversation is starting to slow down, and suddenly I realize, like, it's been a while that we've been driving. I say to Frank, "Hey man, I mean, I thought you said this place was like a half hour away." And he was like, "Yeah, I thought it was. I've made this drive several times." And he goes, "We should be coming up here really soon. I know the exit." And I'm like, "Okay." We drive longer, and suddenly he's like, "Huh, man. I mean, I thought for sure there was an exit up here." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Well, to get into the cemetery, you have to enter the town like through this kind of back way." Because on the front side, the main drive and the main road into it, the cops patrol it. So you got to go through this back way. I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "Yeah, but I just don't see this exit anywhere." I'm like, "Okay, well, what are we going to do?" And he goes, "Well, I'll drive a little bit more, but it should be coming up," which it never does. And then we suddenly drive into a city that he's not even familiar with. And I'm like, "Dude, where are we at?" And now remember, it's like, already 1:30 in the morning, almost 2 o'clock. And I'm like, "Man, we got to find this place, dude. Like, I mean, we only have so much time." He's like, "Okay, well, I'll figure it out, So he turns around and, he rolls down his window to talk to the car behind us. And the driver, Chris, who's his friend and is from that area, says the same thing. He says, "I don't remember being at this far, and I didn't see the exit." And he's like, "Yeah, no, I didn't either." And I'm like, "Huh." And he's like, "Well, just follow me back. I'm sure we'll run into it." So we drive back for what seemed like another half hour. And suddenly I just hear Frank go, "Fuck, man. Where are we at?" And he pulls off again on the side road that's leading into the small town. And Chris pulls up next to us, and he rolls the window down. He's like, "Chris, do you know how to get to where we're going?" And he goes, "Well, yeah," but he goes, "But I'm in the same place you are, man. I don't understand why we're not finding this exit. It's right where this gas station is." And he's like, "Yeah, I don't know either." And he goes, "Well, let's just go in this town and we'll just ask somebody because it's right around here." And Frankie's like, "Okay." We drive into this town. It was so creepy. Frankie had to turn around, so he pulls into this person's driveway, and it's like the only, house on the street. And right when he pulls into the driveway, there's this massive statue of Mother Mary with her hands out, like over the car. And I'm like, "Dude, how creepy is that?" And he's like, "Yeah, man." So we turn back around, and we meet at the end of the driveway when Frankie turns around, and he meets with Chris, and he's like, "Hey, man, I don't know where this place is. I don't know what's going on, but I'm running out of gas. So we got to find a gas station really fast." And he goes, "All right." He goes, "Well, just, again, follow me on into this little town and we'll see what's open now." Because, again, it's like almost 3 in the morning now. I mean, we've been driving around forever. And I'm like, "What the hell?" I look over my shoulder and Justin's asleep in the back seat. I'm like, "Great. What a fun night." We busted our butt all day long in this film. Now we're lost. And, now we're just going to get gas and go home. I'm like, this sucks. And I brought my camera, too. I had this little 8-track camera. It was, slightly better than VHS quality. So I'm recording different things throughout the night, too. You can see me earlier on in the night. I was stoked. I'm like going, "It's right. We're going to go find the white lady." And I'm filming everybody pumped up. And then suddenly you see the progression of the night, So we're following Chris's car back into this little tiny ghost town that we're driving through. And we're looking for a gas station desperately in the middle of Blair Witchian Woods, Connecticut at 3 in the morning because Frank is saying he's going to run out of gas. And we come over this hill and there's a gas station right there. I mean, just right there, open, all this stuff. And Frank's like, "Yes, yes." He's super pumped and he's like, "We have gas." And he pulls in and he gets out and he's filling up his gas tank. And I get out to have a cigarette. And he comes walking out of the gas station. He goes, "Dude." And I go, "What?" He goes, "This is it." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, This is the road. I told you, there's a gas station and a road that takes you right in the back of the town. You can go to Union Cemetery from here." I go, this is it. He goes, yes. Are you just now recognizing this? And he goes, I just recognized when I walked out, that's where we're at. And right at that time, Chris comes walking out and says the same thing. He's like, yeah, this is it, man. And I go, well, how did you guys miss this the whole night? You're from here. You said you know exactly where it's at. How did you miss it? And both of them are like, I don't know, man. I'm being honest. There's, a way we always go. We took that route. I didn't see this place. He's like, did you see this gas station on the way out here? And I didn't. I'm like, no, I didn't. I go, this whole thing is really weird, guys. And they're like, well, what do you want to do? You want to go home or you want to go? And I go, no, I want to go, man. Let's go. We're here. Let's go. And they're like, okay, we're not going to have long, though, because it's already, like 3 a.m., so we'll maybe get an hour and we got to bounce. I'm like, hey, I'll do it for 10 minutes. Let's go. If the white lady's here, I want to see her, And again, I told you Justin was sleeping in the back seat. Right as I open the car door, Justin lets out this freaking scream. Just, whoa! I'm like, Jesus, dude. And he looks at me just with terror in his face. I'm like, Justin, what's going on? I go, you're all good. You're in the back of a car. I'm like, we just found the road in. We're at a gas station. Calm down. And he's looking at me like he doesn't know me. And it's freaking me out. You ever had like a close friend look at you like you're a stranger? I mean, it was really creepy. And he kind of snaps out of it and he's like, oh my God, dude. I'm like, what? He goes, oh my God. And I go, what? He goes, I just had the most horrific nightmare. I'm like, about what? He goes, I don't want to talk about it. I go, Justin, come on, man. I mean, don't do that to me. You're freaking me out right now. He's like, oh man, I don't want to talk about it. And I'm like, okay, I get it, but can you please talk about it? And he pauses and he goes, dude. Takes a deep breath. It's like I was at home, just holding my daughter. And he has a 1-year-old daughter at that time. Just beautiful, a little angel. And he goes, and I'm just holding her in my arms. I'm just rocking her. And I'm just thinking to myself how absolutely perfect she is and how beautiful she is. And he pauses and he goes, and then she opens her eyes. And her eyes are like glowing green. And she lets out this like devilish cackle at me. I go, whoa. And he goes, yeah, dude. And he goes, and I just snapped. I go, Jesus. He goes, yeah. And he's freaked. And Justin just does not get freaked out about anything. And I'm like, well, here's the deal, man. I'm like, this is the road. And he's like, we're just now at the road? I go, yeah. He goes, it's the same road we were talking about when I fell asleep. And I'm like, yeah. I go, these two dudes, have been driving around saying they know where it's at, but they're not seeing it. And I go, Frankie about runs out of gas. So I go, we were just looking for a gas station, man. And we come across this hill and here we are. And they're saying this is the road. I'm like, do you want to just go home? Or do you want to, make our way to Union Cemetery and see if the white lady's there? And he's like, well, it's kind of late, man. Maybe we should get home. I go, yeah. I go, fuck, man. I really want to see her, though, man. And he thinks about it for a while, and he goes, really? And I go, yeah, no, I really do, man. This will be a lot of fun. And he's like, I don't know. And I go, well, Justin, you just had a bad dream. I get it. You're freaked out. I go, but once we're there, we're going to be laughing. We're going to be, it's going to be intense. It'll be good. It'll be good, And he's like, all right, man, let's go. Let's do it. So Frankie hops in the car and he's like, are we good? We ready? I'm like, yeah, let's go, So we go. We drive through this long, winding, really creepy back roads where, we get off of concrete onto gravel and went a couple miles deep into like thick woods. And I'm filming this entire time, by the way. At this point, I got the camera on, and I'm just documenting it because it would be fun. It'd be fun to show people. I'm not making a movie or anything. I'm just like, this will be fun. So we're driving, and finally he says, we're here. And I'm looking around, and it's just like straight woods. I'm like, what do you mean we're here? And he goes, oh, we got to walk. We got to walk a little bit. And I go, how far? He goes, oh, it's probably maybe a half a mile. I'm like, wait a minute, man. You didn't tell me we'd be walking alone for a half a mile through the woods. And he's like, well, I told you can't drive up to the front of it. The cops patrol. I go, Jesus. So now at 3:20 in the morning, because the time is just cooking, I'm like, we got to walk through the woods for a half hour, and he's like, it'll go fast. It'll go fast. Let's just do it. And I'm like, all right. So we all line up and we're walking, and it's freaky. I mean, it is very, very, very freaky. And we're all talking about, what is our plan going to be if we actually see her? And everybody's talking tough. I'm hearing this, well, if I see her, I'm going to walk up to her and try to feel her. I'm going to try to put my hand through her. And, Chris is like, yeah, I'm going to just introduce myself, And I'm thinking in my head, yeah, okay. If she just walks up to us, we're all going to freak out. And it's just tough guy talk. And then suddenly I see this big, massive building in the middle of the woods. I'm like, what is this? And Frank's like, oh, we're here, man. I'm like, what? And he's like, that's an old rundown church. It's adjacent from the cemetery. I go, oh, wow. And he goes, did you hear the story about what happened in that church? And I'm like, no. And he goes, yeah, on this girl's wedding day, she asked her husband to come see her right before they were going to have the ceremony. And I go, yeah. And he goes, she stabbed and killed her husband inside the church. I'm like, oh, that's genuinely terrifying. Glad I'm hearing this story right now. And Frank's like, you should go inside the church. I'm like, not happening, dude. We're not doing dares tonight. This has already been a drawn out thing. Let's get to the cemetery and see this white lady. All right. If she's here, I want to see her. If not, we're gone. I go, but I'm way too freaked out at this point to be doing dare games, And I'm like, okay. So we walk a little bit more, maybe 30, 40 more steps, and we see the edge of the cemetery. And it's every bit as creepy as my mind imagined it. I'm like, oh, God. I'm thinking Ed Warren slept like 17 or 19 days or something like that here. Holy Jesus. So I turned my camera on, and I just got it recording. I've had it on at different times during this walk, but, it's on right now. I just decided I'm going to leave it on. So we come to the front of the cemetery, and we walk through the entrance to it, and everybody's walking slow. And mind you, many of us are holding hands. I mean, people are freaked out. I mean, we're all talking about how scary things are. And you want to know when things get really, really scary? It gets dead quiet. And we're walking extremely slow. I reach over and grab Mike Callahan's hand. He grabs mine. I'm like, you good? And he's like, yeah. And we're walking through, and I look to the right, and I see Justin, and he's hopping. He's jumping up and down off the ground. And I'm like, what is he doing? And I notice that he'll take 3 or 4 more steps, and then he'll hop and jump. I'm like, weird. And then I feel a pull on my left hand, and I notice that Mike Callahan's doing that too. And I'm like, whoa. And right as I'm about ready to say to them, why are you guys jumping around? I look up at 11 o'clock, and terror just rips through my body. Oh my God. I stop. Everyone's looking back at me like, why have you stopped walking and why aren't you talking? And I'm like, guys, I need you to do something right now. And I see Justin kind of looking in that area, and then he looks down, he starts shaking his head. And I go, guys, I need you to look at 11 o'clock. And I go, but when you look at 11 o'clock, I don't need you to look at the ground. And Frank's like, huh? And I go, she's in the trees. And I look up, and you can see this white dress just literally almost beautifully floating and moving through the trees. Every one of us saw it. There's this pause. Everybody looks. And like a bat out of hell, it's just screaming. Everybody takes off running 7 different directions. They're jumping over headstones. I mean, I just go straight back out the way we came. I get around to the front, back down to the road where we all walked in, and a car goes by, which I just hit the deck. I'm like, I'm just going to get down because the headlights just shoot across where we all are. And from the headlights, I could see that we're all probably 20 to 30 feet apart from each other. So we all regroup at the top of the road, and we're all freaking out, going, I saw her. Dude, she was dancing up in the tree. I mean, everybody's going nuts. I mean, nuts. And from where we're standing, the cemetery is kind of up on the hill a little bit, so you can't really see where we were looking anymore. And now we realize we have to walk back through the woods to get to our cars. So the adrenaline is pumped up, and I'm just telling everybody, and I'm bringing this up and saying, guys, let's just go right now. Our adrenaline is hyped. Let's just double time it back to the car, and let's get the fuck out of here. So we just start jamming, man, just flying towards the car as fast as we can. We go over this last little hill where our car should be, and we see headlights behind our car. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, man. What is this?